But what I have also said is don't come to the table with the same tired arguments and worn ideas that helped to create this crisis.
Republicans vote against bills to stop outsourcing American jobs, and then they go out and say stuff like this.
The American people are still asking the question, where are the jobs? The question right now that the American people are asking are, where are the jobs? American people are continuing to ask the question, where are the jobs? The president says we're moving forward, but the American people are asking, where are the jobs? The American people keep asking, where are the jobs?
You think Boehner would respond to this story? Hell no. He's nothing but a complete fraud, in my opinion.
Republican governors who saw this program working in their states became some of the most vocal advocates for this program. Republican governors like Haley Barbour of Mississippi, former head of the Republican Party, current head of the Republican Governors Association. Even he, arguably the most partisan governor in the country, has talked about how much he loves this program. He credits it with creating 5,300 jobs in his state alone. This is not a controversial program. It works. It essentially subsidizes companies and organizations to hire people or to keep jobs they would otherwise eliminate. It is very simple. It has very little overhead. It is efficient. It does exactly what it is designed to do. Republicans and Democrats alike, when they've seen how many people it has kept employed in the private sector, they like it very much. Nobody's arguing against it on its merits, either in the states or in Washington. And yet, the Republicans blocked it.
The Republican Party loves to pretend that they have they got the pulse of the working men and women of this country. The fake conservative outrage about jobs really is the biggest hoodwink we've ever seen. Boehner and his buddies at the country club really want to know where the jobs are? Well, what they ought to do is go down and ask these major corporations that are hoarding the money and buying back the stock. That's where the jobs are, John. Ask your friends to show some economic patriotism. But you see, if they do that, then, of course, there'll be some good job numbers, and then it'll make the Obama team look good. And, hell, we got an election coming up. Who cares about the 99ers, right? Who cares about all those people on food stamps? Who cares about all those unemployed people in this country? That's what this election is all about. The haves and the have-nots. Whose side are you on?
So we are taking prudent steps. But you talk to Ted Strickland and what's happening in Ohio, and you ask him whether they need some relief in terms of the unemployment insurance rates that are going sky high, and him having to pick up all kinds of folks who are suddenly seeking food stamps who had been working all their lives.
In the House, where there is no filibuster and the Democrats have a large majority, an extension of this thing was passed twice. But in the Senate, well, in March, New Hampshire Republican Senator Judd Gregg blocked it. Last month, again, Democrats tried to reboot the program, keep funding it. Utah Republican Senator Orrin Hatch blocked it. Then last week, 2 days before the program that created almost 250,000 jobs was set to expire, it got blocked again. You can thank Wyoming Republican Senator Mike Enzi for it this time.
The majority has known this program is going to expire at the end of this month all year and have taken no steps to reauthorize this important social safety net program.
Not true. Democrats tried to reauthorize it in March, you blocked it. Democrats tried to reauthorize it in September, you blocked it. Democrats tried to reauthorize it last month, you, sir, personally blocked it. Even as you called it an important safety net that you were blocking.
I want to read you something which I think many people may not be aware of. You know, the Chamber of Commerce is getting into the news a bit lately. In July 1st, 2004, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce president and CEO Thomas Donahue urged American companies to send jobs overseas. Now, what do you think about that in terms of economic patriotism? These guys would much prefer to pay workers in China 50 cents an hour than reinvest in the United States of America, create decent jobs here. That's the reality.
Now, one of the keys to job creation is to encourage companies to invest more in the United States. But for years, our tax code has actually given billions of dollars in tax breaks that encourage companies to create jobs and profits in other countries.
Take a look at a very, very, very short video clip. You ready? Check this out.
There are legitimate values in outsourcing, not only jobs, but work.
That was Tom Donahue. Tom Donahue is the president and CEO of the United States Chamber of Commerce.
There are legitimate values in outsourcing, not only jobs, but work.
There are legitimate values in outsourcing, not only jobs, but work. The president of the Chamber of Commerce, in his capacity as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, endorsing outsourcing, endorsing the practice of American companies shipping jobs overseas so those jobs can be done by people in foreign countries instead of by Americans. Quote, U.S. Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Thomas Donahue urged American companies on Wednesday to send job overseas. Donahue said people affected by offshoring should, quote, stop whining.
We're here today to put forth a new governing agenda built by listening to the American people that offers a new way forward.
The Republicans in Washington claimed to draw their ideas from a website called America Speaking Out. It turns out that one of the ideas that's drawn the most interest on their website is ending tax breaks for companies that ship jobs overseas. The funny thing is, when we recently closed one of the most egregious loopholes for companies creating jobs overseas, Republicans in Congress were almost unanimously opposed. The Republican leader, John Boehner, attacked us for it and stood up for outsourcing instead of American workers.
Donahue said people affected by offshoring should, quote, stop whining. The benefits of offshoring jobs outweighs the cost. During a trip to India around the same time, Tom Donahue assures business leaders, quote, we are very confident that outsourcing is here to stay. It would be absolutely foolish to try and stop the phenomenon. Woo! Outsourcing? Awesome. All of you Americans who have lost your jobs because your job was outsourced to India or China, the Chamber of Commerce has a message for you, and it is, I quote, stop whining.
Let's turn now to Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who joins us tonight. Thank you for your time, sir.
Good to be with you, Keith.
Republicans fought job creation every step of the way. Now they're reaping the benefits, so it's mission accomplished, right?
Well, I tell you, it is incomprehensible to me that John Boehner would have the chutzpah to talk about jobs when in the Bush administration, after 8 years, they ended up losing 600,000 private sector jobs. During the Bush years, we lost 5 million good-paying manufacturing jobs, and they took us through their deregulation policies to the biggest financial collapse that we had since the Great Depression. So the idea of these guys talking about jobs is really incomprehensible.
So all the people employed in that program are now going to join the ranks of the unemployed, which is going to be horrendous for the economy. It is not only a bad situation and an individual tragedy for each of those Americans now out of the workforce again, it is also bad for the economy as a whole because those people are no longer earning any money, which means they are no longer going to be spending any money, which means we are all dragged down as a nation.
I think it is very clear to anyone who spends 5 minutes looking at this issue is that while the Democrats, in my view, and I speak as an independent, have not been as strong as they should be in protecting the working class of this country, there is no question but the Republicans are out there protecting Wall Street, the millionaires and billionaires. And that's what they have done, and that's what they're doing right now.
Senator, this means that if the Democrats maintain the majority in the Senate and the House, the majority party is going to have to operate differently in dealing with this mindset.
You're absolutely right.
It's not going to be able to be the olive branches coming out of the White House and let's wait 3 months to see if we can get another Republican senator on board and do this bipartisan tap dance in this country.
Ed,
this is about power. This is how they want to run the country. And if the Democrats win, they're going to have to operate differently. Am I right or wrong?
It is high time that the Democrats use power the way the Republicans are. You'd be hard-pressed to know that the Democrats have 59 in the Senate and the Republicans 41. It's high time that we said there's not going to be any more outsourcing. We're going to come up with a fair trade policy rather than unfettered free trade. And if you Republicans want to vote with corporate America, you go for it. But everybody in this country is going to know it, because if you filibuster, we're going to keep this place open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No more tax breaks for billionaires. We're going to use that money to reinvest in our infrastructure, create millions of good-paying jobs. You are not going to raise the retirement age for Social Security to 70. We're going to revisit Wall Street and really make some strong reforms. Bottom line, Ed, and I think this is what you have been saying, the Democrats have got to make it clear to working class of this country that they are really on their side. They're prepared to mix it up with these very powerful people. It ain't going to be easy. But I think if we win the support of the majority of working people in this country, we can stand up and make some real changes.
And so a totally successful, bipartisan-endorsed, non-controversial program credited with putting 250,000 Americans back to work in 37 states, that program is now dead.
Every economist, from the left and the right, has said because of the Recovery Act, what we've started to see is at least a couple of million jobs that have either been created or would have been lost. The problem is 7 million jobs were lost during the course of this recession. So we've still got a big hole to fill. It's going to be absolutely critical that Congress acts over the next several months to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that even though the economy is now growing again, almost 6% last quarter, people have not started hiring again. And we've got to do everything we can to put people back to work because we need a sustainable recovery over the long term.
Do the American people get it, in your opinion? I mean, this is the Chamber of Commerce story that you just brought up. What the corporations are doing, I mean, it's all on the table for the American people to see. It would seem to me that the Democrats would roll on November 2nd.
Well, the answer is the Democrats had better win, or else we're going to see more outsourcing. You're going to see more tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires.
Coors Tech, North America's largest maker of technical ceramics, a small business founded by Adolf Coors. A small business.
You're going to see more deregulation so we can have another Wall Street disaster or a BP disaster. And I'll tell you what else you're going to see. You're going to see either the privatization of Social Security or a movement in that direction, or raising the Social Security retirement age to 70.
Republicans have never made a substantive argument against this program, but they have blocked it not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Does Mr. Boehner know about this? Is it something he was out that day in school? Is this ignorance, or is it cynicism, or what? How can he stand there and say you can't spend your way out of a recession, or worse?
Keith, this is what they want to do. Right now, what they want to do is give $700 billion in tax breaks to the wealthiest 2% at a time when almost all income gains made in recent years have gone to the very, very rich. And the top 1% now earns more income than the bottom 50%. That's apparently not enough for Mr. Boehner.
The Dead River Company, a small business with 1,200 employees, $500 million in annual revenue, and commercial real estate valued at $300 million. A small business.
When more things are made in America, more families make it in America. More jobs are created in America. More businesses thrive in America. But Republicans in Washington have consistently fought to keep these corporate loopholes open. Over the last 4 years alone, Republicans in the House voted 11 times to continue rewarding corporations that create jobs and profits overseas.
The same Tom Donahue, whose Chamber of Commerce has championed outsourcing, is now running TV ads like this all across the country.
Rising unemployment means families are suffering. Tell Richard Blumenthal to stop. His job-killing lawsuits are hurting Connecticut families. The U.S. Chamber is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Richard Blumenthal's a job killer. So says the United States Chamber of Commerce. Here's what's awkward about that sort of an attack ad being launched by the Chamber of Commerce, of all people. Over the last 16 years, more than 87,000 Connecticut workers saw their jobs shipped overseas. Over the last 16 years, more than 87,000 people in Connecticut lost their jobs because a Connecticut company gave their job to someone in another country. And that is something that the Chamber of Commerce promotes. That's according to a new report out by the nonpartisan group Campaign Money Watch. 87,000 jobs lost in Connecticut alone due to outsourcing. But the pro-outsourcing guys want you to think that it's Richard Blumenthal. He's the job killer.
The president in recent days has been out and about asking the base to get energized and recognize the moment of what we face in this election. That's what we face. We face that right there. We see big corporate America hoarding the profits, buying back their stock instead of investing in job creation.